a dream to serve. Under the benevolent sun, Luna, a sleek blur of motion, wrestled with her littermates, a delightful chaos of playful nips and mock charges. Her tiny paws scrabbled for purchase on the soft grass, a whirlwind pursuit of a particularly fluffy tail. A high-pitched, joyous yip punctuated the air, a melody of pure elation and the thrill of the chase. While the other pups eventually flopped down, panting, Luna's amber eyes still sparkled, her tail a rapid drumbeat against the earth. Her energy seemed inexhaustible, an internal dynamo perpetually humming. Sometimes, when the scent of the adults was particularly potent, a different kind of memory would surface. She envisioned them, monumental figures moving with purposeful grace, a laser-like intensity in their gaze. She recalled the sharp crack of a distant command, the controlled power, the unyielding loyalty in their eyes as they responded to the human hand. They were heroes, her parents, protecting and serving, their unwavering dedication etched into Luna's young mind. A profound sense of belonging and destiny swelled within her. The journey to the training facility was a kaleidoscope of novel smells and unfamiliar sounds. As the vehicle stilled, Luna's nose twitched, inhaling the metallic tang of equipment and the rich tapestry of canine scents. Her heart thrummed with a blend of excitement and anticipation. This was it. Here her journey would commence. The imposing gates, the regimented rows of kennels, the focused, purposeful humans, all heralded the future she'd always envisioned. She practically hummed with readiness, her tail wagging so vigorously her entire body became a joyful tremor as she leaped out. She was here to serve. The puzzling drills. Luna's advanced training began with a flurry of new scents and complex patterns. Mr. Evans, ever the stickler for procedure, watched with a critical eye as she navigated the scent walls. A plume of cedar, a hint of old leather, then the faint metallic tang of a tiny screwdriver hidden amongst a dozen identical tools. Luna's nose led her unerringly. Her tail gave a single, decisive thump against the floor before she sat, her gaze fixed on the hidden object. Mr. Evans jotted a note, a rare upward curl at the corner of his lips. "Good girl, Luna," he rumbled, offering a treat. Later, find the toy drill. Mr. Evans placed a worn rubber ball under an overturned bucket in the corner of the training room. "Luna, seek," he commanded, his voice a low, even tone. Luna scanned the room, her ears twitching, before settling on the bucket. Her muscles tensed. Mr. Evans drew a breath to utter the final command. "Go," he began, but the word was cut short. Luna, a blur of motion, had already darted across the floor, nudged the bucket aside with her nose, and was trotting back, the rubber ball held proudly in her jaws. She presented it to him, tail wagging, a triumphant sparkle in her dark eyes. Mr. Evans blinked, his brow furrowing. He hadn't said go yet. He hadn't even finished the word. He stared at the ball, then at Luna, who sat patiently, awaiting her praise. He ran a hand over his chin, a new, peculiar entry in his mental log. Day 11's dilemma. "All right, Luna. Sit. Wait. Then retrieve." Mr. Henderson's voice boomed across the training yard, the toy a bright red lure in his hand. Luna, however, was already halfway to the retrieve dummy, her powerful legs eating the ground. She snatched it midair, a blur of tawny fur, then pivoted, prancing back, her eyes fixed on Mr. Henderson as if to say, "See? Perfect." Next, it was Ms. Rodriguez's turn. She tried a different approach, a softer, more encouraging tone. "Luna, easy now, let's focus. Wait for the go command." Luna sat, body vibrating with suppressed energy, her gaze flicking from the toy to Ms. Rodriguez's face, a flicker of profound understanding in her intelligent eyes. But the moment Ms. Rodriguez's hand twitched, Luna was off, the dummy already in her mouth before the go could fully form. Frustration etched itself onto Ms. Rodriguez's features. Mr. Evans, observing from a distance, scribbled notes. He watched as Luna consistently anticipated every drill, every sequence. It wasn't disobedience, not exactly. It was a proactive precision that baffled them all. Her ears would twitch, her head would cock, and then, before the verbal cue was even complete, she'd execute the next step flawlessly. Later, in the stark conference room, the evaluation board convened. "She's not listening," one trainer insisted. Another countered. "But she's doing it correctly, even better than commanded." Mr. Evans finally spoke, his voice low. "It's uncategorizable. She's not failing, but she's not following. It's like she's reading the drill, not just reacting to it." A heavy silence filled the room. A different path. The hushed conversation in the observation booth solidified Luna's fate. "She's brilliant, yes," head trainer Davies admitted, running a hand through his already disheveled hair. "Too brilliant, perhaps. We can't have a dog anticipating the entire sequence before the first command is fully issued. It's uncategorizable, uncorrectable." Mr. Evans, leaning against the cold glass, watched Luna flawlessly execute a complex retrieval drill, her tail a blur of focused energy. She fetched the decoy, returned to heel, and sat, all before the sit command was even halfway out of the junior handler's mouth. It was beautiful, a perfect performance, and utterly wrong for their program. "Refuses command interruption," Mr. Evans murmured, the words feeling inadequate for Luna's proactive precision. He picked up the clipboard, the official washout documentation stark against the white paper. His pen hovered over the signature line, a pang of regret sharp in his chest. He saw not a failure, but a mind operating on a different wavelength, a path too divergent for their rigid structure. With a sigh, he scrawled his name. Down in the kennels, Luna's world remained unchanged. She gnawed on her favorite rubber toy, oblivious to the quiet arrangements being made for her departure. A kennel technician approached, a new, softer lead in hand, and Luna thumped her tail, ready for whatever game was next. She was going for a ride. She sensed a change in routine. Little did she know, this ride would take her not to another training field, but to a different path entirely. A new home, a new life. The adoption center hummed with a nervous energy, a symphony of barks and whines. Mrs. Gable, a woman whose smile lines spoke of a life well lived, scanned the kennels. Then she saw her, a Belgian Malinois, eyes like liquid amber, sat with an almost regal stillness amidst the cacophony. "Hello, beautiful," Mrs. Gable murmured, extending a hand. Luna, as the tag read, bumped her nose against the bars, a soft, inquisitive sniff. Mrs. Gable knew instantly. The drive home was quiet, save for the gentle hum of the engine. Luna, surprisingly calm, watched the world blur past. Her new home, a charming bungalow with a sprawling, fenced yard, was a revelation. Every scent was new, every patch of sunlight an invitation. She investigated the worn rug in the living room, the cool tile of the kitchen, and finally, the vast expanse of the grass, her tail a blur of motion as she chased a butterfly. Mrs. Gable watched from the porch, a soft chuckle escaping her lips. Days melted into weeks, weeks into months. Luna learned the rhythm of Mrs. Gable's life. Mornings began with a vigorous game of fetch, the red rubber ball sailing through the air, Luna a streak of fawn and black. Afternoons were for quiet companionship, Luna resting her head on Mrs. Gable's lap as she read, the soft scratch of the turning pages a soothing counterpoint to Luna's contented sighs. They explored new walking trails, Mrs. Gable pointing out birds, Luna's nose a constant guide, interpreting the complex narratives of the forest floor. Mrs. Gable, initially hesitant about taking on such an intelligent, driven breed, found herself utterly devoted. Luna was more than a pet. She was a confidant, a shadow, a joyful, constant presence. 3 years bloomed, each day deepening the bond between the quiet woman and the extraordinary dog. The wall's secret. 3 years melted away like snow in spring, bringing a warmth and rhythm to Mrs. Gable's home she hadn't known possible. Luna, a sleek shadow of tawny and black, was the heart of it all. One crisp autumn afternoon, a sunbeam striped across the living room carpet. Luna was engrossed in a playful tussle with a stuffed squirrel, her tail a happy metronome against the floorboards. She pounced, she growled playfully, then froze. Her head snapped up, ears swiveling, not at the squirrel, but at the far wall. A low whine rumbled in her chest, almost imperceptible. She dropped the toy, trotted to a specific spot near the built-in bookshelf, and began to sniff intently, her nose a rapid-fire piston against the painted surface. Then, a soft pawing started, a gentle scrape of nail against drywall. "Luna, what on earth?" Mrs. Gable chuckled. Assuming some errant dust bunny had caught her attention, she clapped her hands. "Come on, girl. Let's go outside." Luna glanced over, her golden eyes momentarily meeting Mrs. Gable's, then returned to her silent investigation, her focus absolute. Distracted, Luna allowed herself to be led out, but the moment they returned, she was back at the wall, her sniffing more insistent, her pawing now accompanied by a persistent, almost desperate whine. Days turned into weeks. Every morning, after her breakfast, Luna would patrol to that identical section of wall, her behavior unwavering. Mrs. Gable observed the ritual daily, a knot of confusion tightening in her stomach, slowly giving way to a quiet, unsettling worry. There was nothing there, just a plain, unassuming wall. A call to the past. The rhythmic tap-tap-tap against the wall had become a peculiar soundtrack to Mrs. Gable's quiet evenings. Initially, she chuckled, attributing it to Luna's playful quirks. But as the days stretched into a week, then two, her amusement curdled into a knot of concern. Luna's relentless focus on that one section of plaster, her nose often pressed against it, a low whine vibrating in her chest, was anything but playful. Mrs. Gable stared at the phone, her hand hovering over the receiver. It felt foolish, almost absurd, to call a military facility about a dog tapping a wall. They'd probably think she was losing her mind. Still, the image of Luna, rigid and insistent, outweighed her embarrassment. Taking a deep breath, she dialed the number she'd found tucked away in Luna's adoption papers. Miles away, the sharp ring cut through the quiet hum of the training facility's administrative office. Mr. Evans, immersed in updating equipment logs, sighed and picked up. "Military Working Dog Training Facility," Evans speaking. "Hello, yes?" Mrs. Gable began, her voice a little tremulous. "My name is Eleanor Gable. I adopted a Belgian Malinois from you about 3 years ago." "Luna?" She paused, then plunged into the strange tale. She's been acting very strangely. For weeks now, she keeps tapping at the same spot on the living room wall with her paw, almost like she's trying to get something out. It's daily, Mr. Evans, and it's getting more intense. I don't know what to make of it." A flicker of recognition, then surprise, crossed Mr. Evans's face. "Luna." He remembered her. "Tapping, you say?" he asked, a sudden curiosity sharpening his tone. The invisible threat. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across Mrs. Gable's porch as Mr. Evans's sedan pulled into the driveway. A faint, almost imperceptible scent of something metallic hung in the air. He stepped out, a knot of professional curiosity tightening in his stomach. The coincidence of Luna's history and this current mystery was too potent to ignore. As he approached the door, it swung open. Luna, a sleek flash of fawn and black, launched herself forward, not with a typical boisterous greeting, but with an urgent whine, her tail a blur. She nuzzled his hand once, then immediately spun, looking back at the living room with an insistent bark. "She's been doing it all day," Mrs. Gable said, her voice laced with weary concern. "Ever since I spoke with you." Luna led Mr. Evans directly to the offending wall, her nose pressing against the baseboard, a low growl rumbling in her chest. Mr. Evans knelt, his fingers tracing the painted surface. Nothing obvious. He pulled a small, specialized carbon monoxide detector from his jacket pocket, a precaution he'd decided upon last minute. He held it against the wall, near where Luna's muzzle had been. The device remained silent for a breath. Then a sharp, piercing beep erupted, followed by a series of rapid chirps. The digital display flashed an alarming concentration reading. Mr. Evans peered closer, and there it was, a hairline fracture in the heating duct access panel, almost invisible beneath a fresh coat of paint. Reading the drill. Mr. Evans stood in Mrs. Gable's driveway, the siren's wail now a distant memory, replaced by the hushed thrum of the emergency vehicle as it pulled away. The late afternoon sun slanted through the oak leaves, casting long, wavering shadows. He replayed the day in his mind. Luna, insistent, nose pressed against the baseboard, then her frantic nudging at his hand, pulling him towards the wall. It wasn't random. It was a deliberate, urgent communication. He remembered her during training, that same unshakable focus, the way she'd consistently break sequence, pulling away from the dummy when the attack command was still echoing, veering off course during obstacle drills. They'd called it refusing command interruption, a failure to complete the established pattern. But what if it wasn't a refusal? What if she was seeing, hearing, or sensing something they weren't? The drive back to the training center was a quiet revelation. Each mile peeled back another layer of his long-held assumption. He saw the world through Luna's eyes, a world of subtle shifts in air pressure, faint tremors, infinitesimal changes in scent. Her interruptions hadn't been defiance. They'd been a response to a reality invisible to humans. She wasn't breaking the drill. She was reacting to a drill she alone could perceive. Inside the sterile archives, the scent of old paper and dust filled his nostrils. He found Luna's file, its manila folder worn at the edges. His own precise handwriting filled the notes on behavior section. Refuses command interruption. He didn't erase it. Instead, beneath the final entry, his pen scratched out a new truth. She was reading the drill. He closed the file, the simple sentence a profound reinterpretation of a dog he had once dismissed.